I should have known something was wrong when Zoe wouldn't let me help her change for school that morning. My usually chatty 7-year-old had been oddly quiet lately, but I chalked it up to adjusting to life with Lucas, my fiancé of 3 months. My name is Harper, and until that morning, I thought I was finally getting my happily ever after. Funny how life has a way of shattering those illusions. Mommy, I can do it myself, Zoe insisted, clutching her shirt to her chest. Her voice wavered slightly, something only a mother would notice. I stood in her doorway, coffee mug in hand, watching her small fingers fumble with the buttons. You sure, sweetie? We're running late, and I have that big interview with the governor today. I'm not a baby anymore. She turned away from me, and that's when I caught a glimpse of something dark on her shoulder blade. Before I could get a better look, she had her shirt on. My mother's voice echoed in my head from dinner last night, there's something off about that Lucas, Harper. The way he looks at Zoe when he thinks no one's watching. I dismissed her concerns, attributing them to her general distrust of politicians. After all, Lucas was the governor's right-hand man, charming and successful. He'd swept me off my feet after meeting during a previous interview. Zoe, did you hurt yourself at playground? I tried to keep my voice casual, though my heart was racing. No, Mommy. Can I have breakfast now? The way she avoided my eyes made my stomach clench. I followed her downstairs, where Lucas was already dressed in his signature crisp suit, reading something on his phone. There's my favorite girls, he smiled, but something about it seemed practiced. Had it always been that way? Ready for the big interview, Harper? I managed a smile while pouring Zoe's cereal. As ready as I'll ever be. Though Zoe's running a slight fever. I can watch her, Lucas offered quickly. Too quickly. I can work from home today. No. Zoe's spoon clattered against her bowl. Both Lucas and I turned to look at her. I want to go to school. Please. Lucas's jaw tightened for just a second before his smooth smile returned. Now, Zoe, if you're sick. I'll take her to my mother's, I interrupted, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. She's been asking for some grandmother-granddaughter time anyway. Something flickered in Lucas's eyes, anger. Frustration. Before he nodded. Whatever you think is best, darling. He kissed my cheek, his lips cold against my skin, then headed for the door. Good luck with the interview. Make me look good. After he left, I knelt beside Zoe's chair. Honey, you know you can tell me anything, right? Anything at all. She nodded, still not meeting my eyes. I know, Mommy. Is there something you want to tell me? About the mark on your shoulder? She shook her head vigorously, suddenly very interested in her cereal. I just fell. Can we go to Grandma's now? I watched her spoon move in circles, barely touching the food. My daughter, who used to tell me everything, now seemed to be carrying a weight I couldn't see. The interview with the governor suddenly seemed trivial compared to the knot forming in my stomach. As I drove Zoe to my mother's house, I made a decision. After dropping her off, I called the office and rescheduled the interview, citing a family emergency. Then I sat in my car, opened my laptop, and began searching through my old articles about similar cases, children who couldn't speak up. Families torn apart by secrets. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas, how's the interview prep going? I stared at his message, remembering all the little moments that had felt off but that I'd ignored. The way Zoe flinched when he moved too quickly. The sudden nightmares. His insistence on family time that always seemed to exclude me. Fine, I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. Everything's fine. But nothing was fine. And I was going to find out why. The first thing I noticed when I picked up Zoe from my mother's house was how tightly she gripped my hand. The second was the tall, slender figure leaning against Lucas's Mercedes in our driveway. Who's that? Zoe whispered, pressing closer to my side. I recognized her from the photos in Lucas's study. Emily, his daughter from his first marriage. She'd been away at college, and this was the first time I'd seen her in person. Her resemblance to Lucas was striking, but there was something guarded in her stance that reminded me of Zoe's recent behavior. "That's Emily, honey. Your future stepsister." The words felt strange in my mouth. Emily straightened as we approached, tugging at her sleeve in a nervous gesture. "Hi, Harper. Dad said you'd be home soon." Her voice was soft but measured, like someone used to choosing their words carefully. I thought it was time I met his new family. The way she said, "new family," made me pause. There was history there, heavy and unspoken. "Come in," I offered, unlocking the door. "Lucas didn't mention you were visiting." "He didn't know." Emily's smile was tight. "I like to surprise him sometimes. Keep him on his toes." Inside, Zoe disappeared upstairs with unusual speed, while Emily wandered our living room, studying the family photos on the walls. She lingered on one of Lucas and me at our engagement party. "You look happy there," she commented, but her tone suggested something else entirely. "We are happy," I replied automatically, then caught myself. "Were you not expecting that?" Emily turned to face me, her expression carefully neutral. "Dad's good at happy beginnings. He's had practice." Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Lucas's voice boomed through the house. "Harper. Why weren't you at the governor's office today?" I looked like an idiot when he asked about you. He stopped short at the sight of Emily. "Surprise, Dad." Emily's voice had changed completely, taking on a brightness that didn't reach her eyes. Lucas recovered quickly, spreading his arms. "Emily. What an unexpected pleasure." He moved to hug her, but she stepped back, bumping into the wall of photos. "Careful with those frames," Lucas snapped, then immediately softened his tone. "They're special to us." I watched Emily's shoulders tense at his words, saw how her fingers curled into fists before relaxing. "Sorry, Dad. Wouldn't want to disturb your perfect new life." The air grew thick with unspoken accusations. Lucas's jaw tightened, that same tension I'd noticed this morning when Zoe refused his offer to stay home. "Harper," Lucas turned to me, his voice honey smooth again. "Why don't you check on Zoe? Emily and I need to catch up." It wasn't a suggestion. I hesitated, remembering Zoe's bruise, Emily's defensive posture, all the little warning signs I'd been ignoring. "Actually," I said, "I'd love to hear about Emily's college experience. Maybe over dinner. Zoe should get to know her stepsister." Emily's eyes widened slightly, and something like relief flickered across her face. Lucas, however, went very still. "Emily probably has plans," he said firmly. "No plans," Emily countered. "I'm here all week, actually. Thought I might stay here, if that's okay. Get to know Harper and Zoe better." Lucas's smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened. "Of course, sweetheart. Whatever you want." I heard the strain in his voice, saw how Emily's presence had cracked his carefully maintained facade. Upstairs, a door closed softly, Zoe, probably listening to everything. "I'll start dinner," I announced, moving toward the kitchen. "Emily, want to help?" She followed me, leaving Lucas alone with his troubled expression. In the kitchen, Emily spoke so quietly I almost missed it. "You should know," she whispered, glancing toward the doorway, "he's not who you think he is." Before I could respond, Lucas appeared. "Emily, let's get your bags from the car. Harper needs to focus on dinner." As they left, I gripped the counter, my mind racing. Two scared daughters, one controlling father, and a pattern I was just beginning to see. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The bruise on Zoe's shoulder had faded, but the ones in my mind were only getting darker. 3 days after Emily's arrival, I found myself sitting in my car outside Zoe's school, 30 minutes early for pickup. Scrolling through months of photos on my phone. I was looking for something I might have missed, some visible evidence of when my daughter's smile started becoming forced. Mrs. Quinn. A tap on my window made me jump. Miss Reynolds, Zoe's teacher, stood there with concern etched on her face. Could we talk for a moment? My stomach dropped as I followed her into the empty classroom. Children's artwork decorated the walls, and I spotted Zoe's immediately, darker than the others, heavy with black crayon. Zoe's been different lately, Miss Reynolds began carefully. She's withdrawn during playtime, and yesterday. She hesitated, pulling out a drawing from her desk. She drew this during free period. The picture showed 3 figures, a small one hiding behind what looked like a couch, while a tall dark figure loomed over another person. My hands started shaking. When I asked her about it, she said it was just a scary movie she watched. Miss Reynolds lowered her voice. But Harper, I've been teaching for 20 years. Children tell stories through their art that they can't tell with words. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Lucas, picking up Zoe today. Don't worry about leaving work early. I have to go, I said abruptly, grabbing the drawing. Thank you for showing me this. I made it to the pickup line just as the children started streaming out. Zoe's face fell when she saw me instead of Lucas, and that reaction hit me like a physical blow. Mommy, she asked, climbing into the car. Is he mad I didn't wait for him? No, sweetie. I tried to keep my voice steady. We're going to stop by the mall first. There's something I want to get you. At the electronics store, I let Zoe pick out the color of her new smartwatch. It's for emergencies, I explained, showing her how to use the panic button. And you can call me anytime, even if you just want to talk. Does Lucas know about it? She whispered. This is just between us, okay? I knelt to her level. Like a secret superhero gadget. That earned me a small smile, the first real one I'd seen in weeks. At home, Emily was in the kitchen, tension visible in her shoulders as Lucas lectured her about something. They both stopped when we walked in. There's my girls, Lucas said warmly, but his eyes fixed on Zoe's wrist. What's that? A birthday present from my mom, I lied smoothly. She couldn't wait until next month. Lucas's jaw tightened for a fraction of a second. Bit young for expensive electronics, isn't she? I think it's cool, Emily interjected, winking at Zoe. Maybe you can show me how it works while your mom and dad talk. Lucas's hand gripped his coffee mug harder. Emily. Please. Zoe asked, already moving toward Emily. Something passed between father and daughter, a silent battle of wills that Emily won when Lucas forced a smile. Of course, sweetheart. Just don't be too long. We need to discuss Emily's living arrangements. After they left, Lucas turned to me. You shouldn't undermine my parenting decisions, Harper. Zoe needs structure, discipline. Like Emily did. The words slipped out before I could stop them. His expression darkened. Emily's issues are complicated. You don't understand our family dynamic. I'm starting to, I replied, thinking of Zoe's drawing, Emily's defensive posture, all the pieces falling into place. Later that night, I heard muffled voices from Zoe's room. Approaching quietly, I found Emily sitting on the bed, speaking softly to my daughter. Remember, Emily was saying, the watch is like a shield. No matter what, you're not alone anymore. I stepped back, tears burning my eyes. In trying to protect my daughter, I'd found an unexpected ally, another little girl who'd grown up afraid, now determined to break the cycle. The question was, how far would Lucas go to maintain his control? And more importantly, how far would I go to stop him? The first recording came through at 2:47 p.m. I was at my desk, pretending to work on the governor's interview piece, when my phone buzzed. The smartwatch's app had captured audio while I was at the office. My hands shook as I connected my earbuds. Where's your mother? Lucas's voice, cold and unfamiliar. Working. Zoe's voice was barely a whisper. And that watch she bought you, you've been talking to her, haven't you? Telling tales. Silence. Answer me when I speak to you. A small whimper. No, I promise. Something crashed in the background. Don't lie to me. I ripped out my earbuds, bile rising in my throat. My phone buzzed again, another recording. And another. Each one worse than the last. Lucas's voice growing harder, Zoe's responses becoming smaller, more frightened. The office door opened. Harper. My editor stood there, frowning. The governor's office called again. They want to know when I quit. The word surprised us both. Family emergency. I'm sorry. I was halfway to my car when Emily called. Where are you? Her voice was urgent. Dad's on his way home. He found the watch. My blood ran cold. Where's Zoe? Safe. I picked her up from school. We're at the park 3 blocks from your house. I broke every speed limit getting there. They were on the swings, Emily gently pushing Zoe, who clutched her backpack like a shield. Mommy. Zoe ran to me. I held her too tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo. He smashed it, she whispered. But I saved the backup one Emily gave me. It's in my bag. I looked at Emily, who shrugged. I bought it the day after you got hers. Knew he'd find the first one eventually. Smart girl, I said, meaning both of them. Emily's face darkened. I had years to learn his patterns. The calm voice that isn't calm at all. The way he isolates people. Makes them doubt themselves. She touched her left wrist absently. I have scars you can't see. My phone rang, Lucas. I let it go to voicemail. We can't go back, I said, more to myself than them. Actually, Emily pulled out her phone, showing me a text, we have to. He's threatening to call the police, report Zoe kidnapped. He wouldn't. He would. He's friends with half the force, remember? His position with the governor. Another call from Lucas. Then one from Jake, my ex-husband. Harper. Jake's voice was tense when I answered. Why is Lucas calling me about Zoe missing? She's with me. Jake, I need you to listen. I'm coming over, he interrupted. Don't do anything until I get there. I ended the call, mind racing. The recordings would prove everything, but Lucas's influence could bury them, twist them around. He'd already started spinning his story, the concerned stepfather, the unstable ex-wife. Emily, I said slowly, would you testify? About what he did to you? She paled but nodded. It won't be enough. It never is, with men like him. They're too careful, too connected. Zoe tugged my sleeve. Mommy? I recorded something else. Something bad. She pulled out the second watch, fingers trembling as she accessed its memory. A new recording began to play, Lucas on the phone, his voice sharp with anger. Don't care how you handle it. Just make sure those photos never reach the governor's desk. Yes, I know what it'll cost. Just get it done. Emily's eyes widened. The corruption investigation. The one that disappeared last month. Suddenly, everything clicked. The missing evidence in the governor's corruption case. The story I'd been working on, that Lucas had been so eager to help with. He's been burying evidence, I said. Using his position to protect the governor, and himself. My phone buzzed again, Lucas. This time, I answered. Bring my daughter home, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Now. I looked at Zoe, at Emily, at the evidence we'd gathered. No, Lucas. You're the one who's going home. To an empty house. Because we're done. You have no idea what you're doing, he warned. Actually, I replied, for the first time since I met you, I know exactly what I'm doing. I hung up as Jake's car pulled into the parking lot. It was time to stop running, stop hiding. Time to fight back. Because some men deserve to lose everything they've tried to control. The recording sat like a loaded gun on my laptop, waiting to be fired. Jake paced my mother's living room, running his hands through his hair for the 100th time since I'd played them for him. We need to be smart about this, Harper, he said. Lucas has connections. One wrong move. Wrong move. I gestured toward the stairs where Zoe was finally sleeping. He hurt our daughter, Jake. While I was too blind to see it. That's not what I... A knock at the door made us both freeze. Through the window, I caught Emily's silhouette, glancing nervously over her shoulder. He's meeting with the governor right now, she said as soon as I let her in. But I found something else. She pulled out a USB drive. Dad keeps everything. Every secret, every piece of leverage. It's how he maintains control. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop. Files appeared, dozens of them, labeled by date and name. I clicked one at random and felt the blood drain from my face. These are blackmail files, Jake whispered. On everyone. Judges, police chiefs, business owners. Emily nodded grimly. Why do you think my mother never got custody? Why no one ever believes the accusations against him? A new file caught my eye, dated 3 years ago, labeled Quinn_J_custody. I clicked before I could stop myself. Son of a bitch, Jake breathed. Photos filled the screen, Jake with a woman who wasn't his girlfriend at the time, taken through a window. The timestamp showed it was during our custody battle. He's been planning this for years, I realized. Getting close to me, to Zoe. He needed another family to control after Emily left. My phone buzzed, Lucas calling again. This time, there was a text, "You're making a mistake. Think about Zoe's future." Emily's face hardened. That's his favorite threat. Think about your future. Like he owns it. We can't just release everything, Jake warned. Some of these people are innocent, just caught in his web. And the backlash. Then we don't release everything, I said slowly. Just enough. The corruption evidence, the recordings of him threatening Zoe, his involvement in covering up the governor's scandal. He'll still come after us, Emily said. He always does. Let him. The cold certainty in my voice surprised even me. I'm done being afraid. My phone buzzed again, a video call from Lucas. I answered, holding the phone so Jake and Emily stayed out of frame. Harper. His smile was gentle, reasonable. You're upset, I understand. But we can work this out. Come home, bring Zoe, and we'll talk like adults. Like you talked to Emily. I watched his smile falter. Or like you talked to Zoe when you thought no one was listening. You're not thinking clearly. Actually, I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months. You know what I'm thinking about? That custody hearing 3 years ago. The one where Jake mysteriously dropped his petition for joint custody. Lucas's mask slipped for just a second, showing something ugly underneath. Be very careful, Harper. Some doors shouldn't be opened. You're right. That's why I'm closing them all. Tonight. I ended the call before he could respond. He'll be here within the hour, Emily said quietly. Jake moved toward the stairs. I'll get Zoe ready. My sister's place is off the grid, he won't think to look there. No, I said firmly. We're not running. That's what he expects, what he wants, to chase us, hunt us down, prove his power. Then what's the plan? Emily asked. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. We're going to take everything he values most, his reputation, his power, his control. And we're going to do it before he reaches this house. He'll destroy you, Emily whispered. No, I replied, thinking of Zoe's bruises, Emily's scars, all the lives Lucas had quietly ruined. We're going to destroy him. And we're going to do it with the truth. I began typing, crafting the story that would tear Lucas's carefully constructed world apart. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with receipts. The headlights sweeping across my mother's living room windows announced Lucas's arrival. I'd expected rage when he burst through the door. Instead, he walked in calmly, straightening his tie like this was just another business meeting. Where's my daughter? His voice was silk over steel. She's not your daughter. I stood my ground, USB drive clutched in my palm. And she never will be. Lucas's smile didn't reach his eyes. Harper. Always so dramatic. Did you really think I wouldn't have a backup plan? He pulled out his phone, showing me an email draft. One click, and every editor in the state gets proof of your fabricated sources. Your entire journalism career, exposed as fraud. My throat went dry. You're bluffing. Am I? Who do you think suggested those anonymous sources for your biggest stories? The ones that won you those awards? He stepped closer. I've been protecting you, Harper. Guiding your career. Making you successful. The realization hit like a physical blow. All those perfectly timed leads, those convenient sources. You set me up. From the beginning. I helped you. Like I help everyone I care about. His voice softened. Don't throw it all away now. Dad. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, Jake beside her. It's over. Lucas's mask slipped for just a second. Emily, sweetheart. I was wondering where you'd run off to. I'm not running anymore. She held up her phone. And I'm done keeping your secrets. You ungrateful little, he caught himself, smoothing his expression. Everything I did was for this family. Was it for family when you hurt Zoe? My voice shook. When you threatened her to keep quiet? I was teaching her discipline. Structure. Like I taught Emily. He turned to his daughter. Remember how wild you were before? How much better your life became with proper guidance. Emily flinched. Jake stepped forward, but Lucas pulled out another phone. Careful, Jake. Those photos of you and the intern. Imagine how they'd affect your custody appeal. You're right, I said quietly, making them all turn. You've thought of everything. Built the perfect trap. I opened my laptop, showing the email I'd drafted. Except one thing. And what's that? I don't care anymore. I hit send. About my career, the scandal, any of it. Because protecting Zoe is worth more than everything you could possibly take from me. Lucas's phone buzzed. Then again. And again. His face darkened as he read the notifications. What did you do? Told the truth. All of it. The governor's corruption, your blackmail schemes, the abuse. With evidence. I held up the USB drive. Emily's not the only one who kept records. You'll never work again, he snarled, mask completely gone now. I'll make sure. You'll what? Jake's voice was deadly quiet. Threaten us? Blackmail us? Look at your phone, Lucas. Look how fast the story's spreading. Lucas lunged for my laptop. I stepped back, but not fast enough. His hand caught my throat, slamming me against the wall. I made you, he hissed. I can destroy you. Dad, stop. Emily screamed. A small voice cut through the chaos, leave my mommy alone. Zoe stood in the doorway, my mother behind her, phone raised and recording everything. Lucas released me instantly, but it was too late. His true face had been exposed, captured forever. Zoe, sweetie, he tried, reaching for her. She backed away, tears streaming down her face. You're a bad man. I hate you. Something broke in Lucas's eyes, not sadness or regret, but rage. Pure, uncontrolled rage. This isn't over, he spat, backing toward the door. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, Emily said, we finally do. After he left, I sank to the floor, adrenaline draining away. We'd done it, exposed him, stood up to him. But as my phone kept buzzing with notifications, I realized the cost. My career was in tatters. Half the city's power players would be out for blood. And Lucas. Lucas was still out there, wounded but dangerous. Zoe crawled into my lap, small arms wrapping around my neck. Are we safe now, Mommy? I held her close, meeting Emily's worried eyes over her head. Because we all knew the truth, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a war. And Lucas would burn the whole world down before he admitted defeat. The governor's annual charity gala wasn't my idea of a battlefield, but Lucas had always loved an audience. I spotted him across the ballroom, charming a group of reporters, damage control for the story I'd broken 3 days ago. Emily appeared at my elbow, elegant in black. He's already convinced half the room that you're unstable. Playing the concerned ex-fiancé worried about your mental health. Of course he is. I watched him work the crowd, his mask perfectly in place. Where's the backup drive? Safe. Jake's waiting outside with it. She twisted her champagne glass nervously. Are you sure about this? Once we play it here, there's no going back. I touched the recorder in my clutch. Ready? She nodded, but her hands shook slightly. Just be careful. When he realizes what's really on that recording. I made my way toward Lucas, each step measured. He saw me coming, his smile never wavering. Harper, he greeted warmly, I didn't expect to see you here. Considering recent events. Recent events? I kept my voice light. You mean how you manipulated my career? Or how you terrorized my daughter? The reporters around us shifted uncomfortably. Lucas laughed smoothly. You see what I mean about her mental state? The stress of our breakup. Play it, I said to Emily. She pulled out her phone, and suddenly Lucas's voice filled the quiet ballroom. I own you, Emily. I own this whole family. Your mother thought she could leave too, remember how that ended? The color drained from Lucas's face as his own words continued, one call, that's all it took. One suggestion about her mental stability, and poof, she lost everything. Just like Harper will. Turn it off, he growled. Why? I stepped closer. Isn't this the real Lucas Bennett everyone should know? The one who breaks his children to control them. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I do. I nodded to Emily, who pressed another button. The ballroom speakers crackled to life, and a new recording played, Lucas discussing bribes, blackmail. Every dirty secret he'd kept for the governor. The crowd erupted in whispers. Security. Lucas called out, but no one moved. They work for the governor, I said quietly. Who, by the way, just received proof that you've been skimming from those bribes for years. Quite the paper trail you left, Lucas. His grip tightened painfully. I'll destroy you. No, Emily stepped forward, you won't. Because I remember everything. The accidents that kept happening to Mom until she disappeared. The way you'd hurt me then by my silence. I was too scared to speak up then, but I'm not anymore. Lucas's mask finally cracked. After everything I did for you. You did nothing for anyone but yourself, I cut in. And now everyone knows it. He moved so fast I barely saw it coming. His hand shot toward my throat, but this time I was ready. I stepped back, letting him stumble forward just as camera flashes erupted around us. There's the real Lucas Bennett, I announced to the shocked crowd. The one who solves problems with violence and fear. Police officers appeared at the doorway. Not local cops, federal agents. Lucas saw them too, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "If I'm going down," he whispered, reaching into his jacket, "I'm taking you with me." Emily screamed, "No," just as Jake tackled Lucas from behind. Whatever he'd been reaching for clattered across the floor, a small revolver. The federal agents swarmed in as Lucas thrashed and shouted. But I wasn't watching him anymore. I was watching Emily, who stood trembling but tall, finally free of her father's shadow. "Harper," she choked out, "I'm sorry. I should have told someone years ago. Maybe then Zoe." I pulled her into a hug. "You told someone now. That's what matters." Over her shoulder, I watched the agents lead Lucas away. He looked smaller somehow, stripped of his power and pretense. Our eyes met one last time, and I saw something I never expected: fear. Because he finally understood, the people he'd tried to break had become stronger than him. And together, we'd broken his power instead. 6 months after the gala, I stood in our new kitchen, watching Zoe and Emily make pancakes together. Zoe's laughter, real laughter, not the careful kind she'd learned with Lucas, filled the morning air. Emily caught my eye and smiled, a healing kind of understanding passing between us. The newspaper on the counter carried Lucas's sentencing headline. 15 years, no possibility of early release. The governor had resigned in disgrace. My career had shifted from journalism to advocacy work, helping other families escape similar situations. Sometimes the best stories aren't the ones you write, but the ones you live. "Mom!" Zoe called out. "Emily's teaching me how to make smiley faces with chocolate chips." "Just don't tell Grandma Evelyn," Emily stage whispered. "She says chocolate for breakfast is a crime." I watched them together, marveling at how family could be found in the aftermath of destruction. Emily had moved in with us after starting therapy, saying she needed to learn what real family felt like. Zoe had immediately declared her the best big sister ever. The doorbell rang. Jake stood outside, holding a manila envelope. "This came to my office," he said quietly. "From the prison." My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Lucas's familiar handwriting filled the single page. "Harper. I've had time to think. About control, about fear, about the ways I twisted love into something ugly. I won't ask for forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that Emily was right. She was always right about me, and I was too proud to see it. Take care of our girls. They deserve better than what I gave them." You okay?" Jake asked. I folded the letter carefully. He still doesn't get it. They were never his girls. They belonged to themselves all along. Back in the kitchen, Emily was showing Zoe how to flip a pancake. It landed half-folded, and they both dissolved into giggles. "Perfect timing," Emily announced. "We made plenty for everyone." Jake hesitated in the doorway until Zoe ran to hug him. "Daddy. Stay for breakfast." As we gathered around the table, I thought about cycles, how they break, how they heal. Emily had found her voice. Zoe was learning that love shouldn't hurt. And I discovered that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemy, but in building something beautiful from the ruins they left behind. "Harper." Emily's voice pulled me back. "There's something I need to tell you." She took a deep breath. "I found my mom." The kitchen went quiet. Emily twisted her napkin. "She's in Oregon. Has been for years. She wants to meet me. Maybe meet all of us." "Of course she does," I said softly. "You're pretty amazing." Emily's eyes welled up. "I used to think I was broken. That he'd broken me. But being here, with you and Zoe." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not broken. I'm just healing." We all are, Jake added, surprising me. He'd been quiet about everything that happened, but now he reached across the table and squeezed Emily's hand. And your family now. Whatever you need. Zoe, not fully understanding but feeling the moment's weight, climbed into Emily's lap. Can we make pancakes for your mom too? Emily laughed through her tears. Yeah, little sis. We can make her pancakes. Later, as I cleaned up breakfast dishes, I found Zoe's latest drawing on the fridge. It showed 4 figures holding hands, her, me, Jake, and Emily, with a bright sun overhead. No shadows, no dark corners. Just light and love and possibility. The letter from Lucas lay unopened in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'd read the rest. Maybe someday he'd truly understand what he'd lost. But for now, this was enough, pancakes and laughter, healing and hope. And the knowledge that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're given. Because in the end, love isn't about control. It's about letting go enough to let people grow into who they're meant to be. Even if that person turns out to be yourself.